Gentlemen, I hope you can hear me. I'll let our technician fiddle around with the vocals to make sure everything's okay. Can everybody hear me at the back okay? Good, good. I have been given this, and I'm being videoed. All of these things I am uncomfortable with. So forgive me if I bumble along a little bit. My name is Gill Perkins, and I'm the owner of Smarter Works. For half my working life, I have been self-employed, and for the other half, I've worked as a hiring manager for a national lobbying organisation and in careers guidance. The earlier period of my self-employment was during the last recession, and I think there's a lot of you here who will remember that recession, where interest rates were 18%. How we ever managed to pay our mortgages, I have no idea. But it is staggering to understand what went on during that recession as far as employment was concerned. This recession, I think, is very different. And I think it offers different challenges and it offers different opportunities from the one before. But it has increased the attractiveness of self-employment, which the last one did as well. More individuals are looking at self-employment as a viable option, and sometimes individuals who have come to me are considering self-employment as the only option available to them. So in my current capacity, working as a career consultant, I have noticed a significant trend in clients looking at self-employment as a career option, which I think is a good thing. I think it's the small business of the engine room of the UK economy. So, and I want to be able to provide advice and guidance that will help them make the right choice for them. So here we go with the technology. Hey. So I have 3 objectives that I'd like to try and cover in this very short seminar. We only have 20 minutes. This is very important for all anybody involved in careers in any state, whether it's at school as a teacher, whether it's as an independent, whether it's in the public sector. If we can increase our confidence in supporting individuals who want to try self-employment, I think we will be doing them a really good service. It is another option and it is a viable option. The second objective I want to meet today's seminar is to build a toolkit of options where we can signpost potential entrepreneurs. And I don't just mean websites for start-up businesses. I don't just mean where they can get practical advice about branding, logos, company structure. All of that is out there and available. But I'm also talking about where they can go to find out if they're suited to self-employment. One of the most insightful predictions made recently was by a company called What If, fantastically creative company, worth looking up on the internet. They forecast that the most sought-after individuals by potential employers will be those that demonstrate creative and innovative behaviours, attributes we have traditionally thought of as entrepreneurial. They go on to say that the internet as a source of research, knowledge, data is available to all. So any one of us can get information down from the internet. But what will set people apart is the ability to innovate. So what I'm looking for when somebody comes to me who wants to think about self-employment is where they can go to test out those sorts of behaviours, see if they've got it. And if they have, to help them develop those behaviours. Sorry, if they haven't, to help them develop those behaviours. So the toolkit I'm considering is not just website links for practical help for startups. I also want to take a closer look at how we can help graduates, in particular, who want to try self-employment as a career option. And there's an old adage about giving presentations that people stop listening to you after 7 minutes. So I'm aiming to talk to about 12, 15 minutes at most, so you've got a little bit of snooze time after the 7 minutes. And then I'm going to hand over to Raspinder, who will give you an inspiring insight as a real-life graduate entrepreneur, and he's going to talk to you about his story. And I think you'll probably find that very interesting, perhaps even more interesting than my presentation. So I'd like to talk briefly about the advantages and disadvantages of self-employment, and in doing so, maybe dispel a few myths. So here we have the perception of the traditional entrepreneur, Alan Sugar, Martin A. Fox, Richard Branson, dynamic, courageous, self-motivated, thrusting, with a thirst for money, and a supreme self-confidence and an unshakable desire to win at any cost. So that's not perhaps how we see ordinary entrepreneurs. ordinary people like us. There's probably a lot of self-employed people in here at the moment. We don't get to see the real life entrepreneurs. We perceive it like that. There's an interesting statistic. And I'm going to come back to this statistic later on because it's very important about the advice that self-employed people or entrepreneurs get when they get it and right at the very beginning. The reality is an entrepreneur can exhibit any or all of the attributes I've just talked about. Perhaps what they really need is a dash of courage, some advice and support to really get going on their businesses. So I don't think there is a typical entrepreneur, but there are some traits that help in becoming a successful entrepreneur. Self-motivation, organised, self-confident, strengths we look for in clients looking for jobs. There are other perceptions about being self-employed that may be seen as a barrier to entry, and these include long hours. Long hours needn't be mandatory, and I'm going to come on to a little bit about that now. It is a bit of a myth. Depends what sort of business you're in. Or it's incredibly stressful, lonely or complicated. Doesn't need to be any of those things, and certainly now we have social media and networking. The business, the isolated business person working out of their bedroom with a laptop on their laps is a little bit of a myth again. And you need a lot of money to start. Now that's the biggest myth. You don't. Today, with the facilities we have for technology, anybody can start a business tomorrow. Depends what it is, of course, but you can start a business. You do not need loads of money to do it. That's a lovely quote. I love that quote. And it's the start of the sort of advice I would give to somebody who is interested in becoming self-employed. Nothing happens until somebody sells something, and it's exactly the same as if it was a client looking for a job. They have to do something, they have to sell themselves, they have to write a CV, they have to apply for a job. So that's something that I think is very important as far as helping people to understand how to go about being self-employed. Oh. And that's the first piece of advice. Somebody comes to me, so what do I do when somebody comes to me with a vague idea that they may like to start their own business? Talk to somebody. And I stress talk. Call me old-fashioned, but I do not mean email, SMS, Facebook, tweet, whatever. Find somebody, find a business mentor, find a business person, find a family member. Sit down with somebody who's in the same industry as you're thinking of going to. And you can find these people all over the place. And I know that Raspinda is going to talk about a little bit about finding networking and finding people who you can talk to. It is so important just to talk to somebody about your idea. It is as simple as that. And there are lovely mentor schemes that you can find in through LinkedIn, you can find through Facebook, who will provide mentors for people, free of charge as well. These are not people who are going to charge for their mentoring. Develop the idea. I often say to them, if it's a service industry or a product, just develop it. Just go ahead and do it. And test it. Test it on your family, your friends, set up a website. Forget about all the time spent getting a logo in your brand and how are you going to do this and what markets. Just do it. Just go and test it. And I think find the cheapest and fastest way to do it, because it's important to get something out there that people, and it may only be the families and friends, can see and give you feedback on. If it doesn't work, if you're going to find out quickly, you will have lost very little other than your time. You'll also quickly find out whether the whole business of running your own business is desperately exciting or desperately tough. But at least you found out at the beginning. So you can consider whether it was fun. The other myth buster that I want to break down a little bit is about that with self-employment you have to put everything on the line. These days you don't. The world is a very different place now. There's so many different options you can have. We talk about portfolio careers now, or some of the clients that come to me talk about having a portfolio career when they have a part-time job and they are self-employed part-time. Where they're 5 to 9, as they're called, where they have a full-time job but they come home and they have a business they can run on the net in the evenings. Where they're full-time self-employed and have a part-time job to support them while they're getting their business off and running. You can buy a franchise and you can buy a business, but those are more costly options. So these days, if you have somebody who comes to you and says, oh, it's going to be terribly expensive and you know, I'm not going to be able to earn any money, it's not true. You've got flexibility now. So that's something I really wanted to put out. So all of these things can reduce the risk associated with self-employment. Self-employment should be an option for anyone with a good idea and the energy to pursue it. And I do want to hand over to Ruspinder in just a minute so that you can understand his story, so you can have a real life story about somebody who did this. The resources about where you can go for help for startup, the practical startups, will all be on my website tomorrow. And there'll be a lot of other links to where you can go to test out your suitability for self-employment or to help clients to test out your suitability. But as I said, they'll be on my website tomorrow. But for now, I'd just like to hand over to Ruspinder and ask the technical man to take this down and put his PowerPoint up. Thank you very much.
Hi everyone, I hope you can hear me back. My name is Ruspinder Singh and I am the founder of Grabpreneur and the Grabpreneur Club. Before I explain to you a little bit more about what the Grabpreneur concept is, I'd just like to walk you through my journey and explain to you how I got to this stage. I graduated from university last year with a degree in management with accounting and finance. Like many of my other friends and classmates, I spent most of my third year applying for jobs as opposed to actually doing my work. And despite getting through to most of the final stages of the applications that I made, I struggled to land a job in the end. And this really got me thinking up until a point where I thought to myself, do I have the mindset to be employable? From this point on, I decided to reconsider my career options and explore the world of business. Whilst doing so, I spent most of my time on the internet exploring ideas, attempting to find like-minded individuals that also wanted to start a business with me. And this is where the Grabpreneur concept came in. I discovered that there was a lack of networking opportunities and support for enterprising students and graduates, and therefore I wanted to do something about this. So what is Grabpreneur and how can it help? Grabpreneur is an online networking platform for enterprising students and graduates as a means for connecting them with like-minded individuals and providing them with the resources to start their own business. So the concept behind Grabpreneur is helping students and graduates build the right relationships that can help them take their ideas from vision to venture. We all understand the importance of finance and marketing and operations within a business, but one of the things we forget, and one of the most fundamental things within business, is the relationships that we hold. Relationships are the most fundamental thing to any successful entrepreneur and business. And I believe by giving aspiring entrepreneurs the access to the right relationships, they can become a lot more resourceful, a lot more knowledgeable, and ultimately become a lot more productive. And so we aim to give enterprising students and graduates access to the right people, the right information, and the right services. And off the back of Grabpreneur, I've been able to develop the Grabpreneur Club, which is an entrepreneur club for aspiring students, entrepreneurs, and startups. This has a lot more offline orientation, and it involves creating events, masterclasses, and boot camps. In fact, our first event is on the 3rd of April. It's being hosted by an accounting company called Kingston Smith, who've kindly lent us their venue. And we hope through this we can inspire, inform, and help young people start building those right relationships to allow them to start their own ventures. So I believe entrepreneurship should be advocated amongst students and graduates. We hear about unemployment being at its highest every day on the news, and about how graduates are taking part in unskilled jobs. The fact of the matter is there is a lot of untapped potential within students and graduates, And because of the mere fact that entrepreneurship is not considered as a viable career option for many of them, most tend to have great ideas, but they don't transpire into anything real and tangible. With starting a business, you do gain a wealth of experience, and even if you do fail, it's not the end of the world. You need to learn, adapt, and move on. And even if there are students out there who aren't ready to start their own business, there are companies like internships that provide entrepreneurial internships for students, so they understand the pressures of starting a business, they understand the fundamentals of the different areas of a business. Ultimately, the Gradpreneur vision is to create a community of entrepreneurs committed to supporting one another, and we think this can happen through peer-to-peer mentoring. And ultimately, we want to help these individuals create mutually beneficial relationships by matching people together based on their skill sets. So ultimately, there is a win-win situation in what we're trying to achieve. I just wanted to cover a little bit about social media and the importance in not only being headhunted, but also finding individuals that can help you start your business. Over 4 months ago, I first set up my Twitter account for Gradpreneur. It's @Gradpreneur if anyone here is using Twitter. For about the first month, I didn't have an understanding of how to use Twitter, and it's much like business. Once you get started, it's learning by doing. And over the course of 4 months, I've gained over 1,200 followers, and it's a great medium to reach people and influential people. And I've met Gill through Twitter. There's also websites like LinkedIn. It's also a great way to make useful contacts. And even if you're not looking to start your own business, it's a great way to be headhunted, which I've experienced myself. And there are other tools like Facebook and Pinterest and Google+, which are great customer engagement tools. That's the end of my presentation. So if you have any questions.
My Zog, by the way, is something that will be on the Gradpreneur side, and it's a test.
It's called My Entrepreneurial Zone of Genius. So it helps you to understand which aspects of yourself are the right parts to allow you to start a business, and what parts you're not so good at.
Okay, so we've got a few minutes left. If there's any questions for Raspinder or myself, please carry on.
Yes?
Barely. Shout.
Yes. I've just been to a talk where they've been mentioning social media, and in particular Twitter was regarded as the most favoured one for. Would you concur with that, as opposed to Facebook or other sites?
Well, for me, the most useful social media platform for self-employed has been LinkedIn, but Raspinder may have a different.
LinkedIn is very useful. I started out probably end of last year with 0 contacts, and I haven't gone into work into a corporate world, but still I've managed to get over 150 new connections with people who consider what I'm doing as something viable, and they want to connect with me for that very purpose. But Twitter is also very useful. It's just a matter of learning how to use it. There are tools out there that can help you access Twitter and learn how to make the best of it.
With both LinkedIn and Twitter, LinkedIn in particular is professional, and Twitter I've always seen as a reputation builder. It's not about I had a boiled egg for breakfast, or oh look, the sun is out down by the sea, or whatever like that. It is for you to engage with people who will come to your website and find something interesting and useful. So I personally use Twitter as a way to build my reputation through my website. For LinkedIn, it's a much more personal relationship. I know the people I'm dealing with on LinkedIn. I work with them. I have conversations with them. I join the groups where I engage with some of the conversations that are going on. So I think it depends a little bit about the business that you're running, but I would stress the professional nature of using social media. I think that's the key, really, for anybody starting up a business.
Hi, it's Pinder. I was just wondering, how does Gradpreneur generate income for you? Where does the money come from that pays your salary ultimately?
Okay. Well, recently I set up an entrepreneur club for graduates and students, and that is my main source of revenue at the moment. So through that, we host events which are paid for by subscriptions, and we are currently looking to partner with other organisations to create masterclasses and boot camps, which as well, they're ticketed, so that's where our main source of revenue comes from. Any other questions?
Excellent. Thank you very much indeed.